Computer. You can start.
Great. Hello, everyone. Today I will speak about Google Firebase. My name is Ina Botchkina, and I'm a software engineer, UX developer, project manager, and also I'm a former research scientist at University of California, San Francisco. And I'm based in both New York and San Francisco. And let's start talking about Firebase and its major milestones and some, I guess I can say, trivia about Firebase. So first of all, it's a backend as a service, which is called BaaS. So basically, it is a set of building blocks that can be used in web for web and mobile applications. And the founders or shall I say inventors of Firebase were James Templin and Andrew Lee on the right. And Firebase was founded in 2012 as a separate company providing Firebase real-time database, which was an API that synchronized application data across mobile and web devices and stored it on Firebase Cloud. And then, so that was pretty much the only product of Firebase. And then in 2014, Firebase launched hosting and authentication. And then also in 2014, Firebase was acquired by Google. And then new developments was in 2016 when Firebase introduced analytics. And Firebase now integrates with various Google services, including Google Cloud Platform. Now, in 2017, Firebase launched Cloud Firestore, which is a real-time database, which was a successor product to the original Firebase real-time database, although the latter is still being used. So before we start talking about Firebase, it is kind of important to understand the difference between backend as a service and platform as a service. And you will hear both terms, and sometimes they actually used intermittently. But basically, you can think of a backend as a service. You can think of it as a subset of platform as a service. But sometimes people actually, you will hear people use these terms interchangeably. So backend as a service. So basically, it is a little bit more focused on basically backend tools and server-side development. So it's a cloud-based service, or actually services, a set of services and tools that provide server-side development and backend tools. So basically, developers can sometimes it's called serverless development, which means that developers don't have to have servers, like they don't have to have them themselves, but basically they are provided to them in the cloud by a backend as a service provider. And so BaaS provides ready-to-use backend functionalities like databases, user authentication, and storage. And so basically, so Firebase, it's important that it provides real-time databases, authentication, storage, hosting, and cloud functions, which provides seamless, basically, synchronization across multiple devices, etc. And the main goal of BaaS is to simplify and accelerate app development for developers by providing and simplifying backend services. And I'll just touch upon platform as a service, PaaS. So it's a more comprehensive platform for developers to build, test, deploy, host, and scale their applications. And it includes infrastructure, middleware, development tools, database management systems, and other tools necessary for building applications. Although you will see that Firebase actually uses a lot of it. But the main difference, as I said, is that Firebase and basically BAS is more focused on specifically backend development, and it has built-in functionalities. And PaaS is more platform as a service, is basically more flexible, but also it has a steeper learning curve and might be a little bit like BaaS might be a little bit easier to use. And so basically you can think of Firebase in terms of the tools that it provides, and basically it falls into three different categories, and that is build, and then release and monitor, and then engage, basically boost user engagement. And I will go through this sets of functionalities, and we will start with build. And I will go because it's usually the most important one. And so let's start with build tools. So again, the objective is to basically for developers to help them build web and mobile apps quickly without managing backend and server-side development. So basically, again, it's called serverless apps, which means that developers don't have their own servers, but run them in cloud. So, and also Firebase provided build tools also solve common app development problems. And really important that they scale to literally millions of users. So, and the main build tools are, there are quite a few, and actually this is not exhaustive list, but I have a list of 8 tools here on this slide. So, and probably the two most important ones is Cloud Firestore, which is a NoSQL database that lets you easily store, sync, and query data for your app at global scale. And also Firebase Authentication, which is a really simple multi-platform sign-in, identity management, secure authentication, which supports email and password accounts, phone authentication, and Google, Twitter, Facebook, GitHub login, and multi-factor authentication, and more. And actually, interestingly, it's possible to use just authentication, just Firebase authentication without using any other services. And that is actually what we currently do in our company. And then some other tools, real-time database, which is basically, it stores and syncing JSON data. And there's cloud storage. And I will talk about this later, actually. So basically, you store and serve user-generated content. And there are cloud functions, which allow you to write and run app logic server-side, again, without needing to set up your own server. And there is app check, which helps protect your app from abuse by making sure that incoming traffic is coming from your app, and it blocks traffic without valid credentials. And of course, hosting. So it's easy to deploy your site on actually multiple sites if you want. And so basically you deploy secure websites and that are backed by a global CDN, and they're synced in real time, which means that if you make a change in your GitHub, it automatically makes a change on your website, which is super convenient. And actually, other tools, other build tools, which I'm not going to cover, remote config extensions, cloud messaging, and machine learning. So so I already went over build tools, and then basically there are performance and monitoring tools such as analytics, Crashlytics, performance monitoring, test lab, and then the actually this slide is a little bit outdated because now they split their tools in 3 groups, and the last one is engage, so boost user engagement. And there is A/B testing, remote config, and cloud messaging. Okay, so I will actually go through. So I went through build products already, and yeah. So just to repeat, just to make the point. So originally there was a real-time database, which was original Firebase product since 2012, and then in 2017 they came up with Cloud Firestore, which is actually also a NoSQL database, but it has better querying, scalability, etc. And so what are Firebase extensions? So basically it's bundled of code that allow additional functions, and some examples are strip payments, algorithm search, BigQuery library. And let's see, so I went over most of this stuff. And yeah, so actually I forgot to mention one thing on the slide. So of course Firebase is owned by Google, and it uses many Google Cloud Platform services. And just a little thing I wanted to add. So we talked about backend as a service and platform as a service, but there is also infrastructure as a service. So it's another abbreviation. So it's IaaS, just in case you come across this abbreviations, just to be able to make a difference. And of course, IaaS is beyond the scope of this presentation, but Google Cloud is considered an IaaS, and Firebase is considered a BaaS. So basically, infrastructure as a service is just more comprehensive. Okay, so next slide. So basically, the beginning, when you start your project, you log into Firebase console. And so it's really easy to get started. So you just add, you just choose what, whether you want to build an iOS app, Android, or a web app, and it guides you through. So this is actually what the most recent console looks like, and it has the most important functions. So hosting, authentication, and app check, and then those categories that I already went through, like build, and you can click on it, expand, and choose any of the tools that I already covered, and then release and monitor, and engage. And of course, there are also analytics. And if I remember correctly, analytics are actually always free, which is a great feature. Well, I will go actually over pricing in my last slide, and it's worth, I'll mention even now that it has a very, very generous free tier. And so, but I will go over this later. And then authentication looks, when you click on the authentication tab, it takes you to another menu, and basically you can so basically it's a list of your users, and with sign-in method you can for example choose Google sign in, or phone sign in, multi-factor authentication, etc. And then templates are used for emails that you send to the user, for example, to confirm their password or to change their password, etc. So let's go to storing data. So basically 2 major ways of storing data is real-time database, which is a regional database, and Cloud Firestore, which is more recent. And also there is cloud storage as well. And I won't go into this in a great detail, but we can compare basically very popular Amazon Dynamo database. But I'm not going to I'm sorry, to go into this. Another tool that Firebase has is an app check, which protects your APIs by blocking traffic that doesn't have valid credentials. And it protects your backend from abuse, such as billing fraud, phishing, app impersonation, and data poisoning. So security is super important, as we all know, and Firebase App Check is one of the major security safeguards. And another one is security rules. And so basically you can define security rules for accessing your data. And also you can leverage authentication to grant user-based permissions. And you can set the conditions, and they can be really basic or really complex. And here's an example how the rules can be set up. Okay, so Firebase is very popular, and but it does have a lot of actually competitors, and by far two most common ones are AWS Amplify, and which is of course Amazon Amazon service, and also Azure App Service, which is a Microsoft company. And also there are some others that I will go over later. But like I said, the main two competitors are AWS Amplify and Azure Apps. AWS was released in Amplify was released in 2018. And it's similar to Firebase, but it's more comprehensive. And it also supports auth, analytics, push notification, storage, hosting, etc. It also supports GraphQL database, which Firebase doesn't support. And Azure Cloud was released in 2010, and Azure Web Apps in 2013, Azure Mobile Apps in 2018. And it also has all the same features, but is also more comprehensive, and of course integrated with Microsoft tools. So I actually went through AWS Amplify and Microsoft Azure, and there are actually many other popular alternatives and competitors, which are BAS or PAS, or some kind of combination of the two. And I can just mention Backendless, Parse, Hinvi, and also Heroku and Netlify, which are very popular for web development. And so I already actually went through this through Amazon Web Services Amplify. But one feature also is that it has more customization options and better integration, of course, with other Amazon services. Although Firebase might be more beginner friendly, and also it's more focused on mobile app development, and it's basically it's a little bit less flexible, less comprehensive, but it just has a set combination of tools. And then I will also go through Heroku and Netlify, which are very very common in web development, and these are they're also used for deploying, managing, and scaling web apps. And so Heroku is owned by Salesforce, and it So it has several interesting things that Firebase doesn't offer. A variety of add-ons for databases, cache and email services, monitoring, and more. And it uses dynos as the unit of computation, which are isolated containers that run your application. Um, and it's actually suitable for backend heavy applications. It's a good choice for applications with complex backend logic, such as API services, and for applications that require custom server configurations. And Firebase, on the other hand, is more focused on providing specific backend services. And Netlify is great for front-end heavy apps and static site hosting. So what a static site means, it's simply sites that are written with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Um, and again, it's provides serverless backend services, which is cloud servers. And it's well suited for front-end heavy applications, especially the ones built with React and Vue.js. Also, it has functions as a service, serverless functions to add dynamic functionality to static sites. And it also it also uses a CDN, global content delivery network, to serve your static assets. And actually, Firebase does the same thing. And finally, I will talk about Firebase pricing. So it has two plans. So there is free plan, which is called Spark, and it has very generous limits. And there is a pay-as-you-go Blaze plan. So there are also services and tools that are always free, which is really great. So A/B testing, analytics, app distribution and app indexing, cloud messaging, Crashlytics, dynamic links, performance monitoring, in-app messaging, and remote config are always free. So that's a great feature. And then authentication is free up to 10,000 verifications a month. And then it's only 1 cent per verification. And then monthly active users, it's free up to 50,000 per month. And cloud storage is 5 gigabytes free, and hosting storage is 10 gigabytes free. And then it's only basically less than 3 cents per gigabyte. So it's super reasonable. And one thing, and like I said, Blaze plan is pay as you go. And one thing that Spark plan doesn't offer is cloud functions. So basically they require Blaze plan. And this actually concludes my presentation today on Firebase. Thank you very much for your attention. And let me stop sharing.
Oh, okay. It was very good. Thank you. Let me stop the recording.